Abigail Adams. Who was Abigail Adams? In the mid 1700s, most women in North America spent their lives caring for their husbands, children, and home. Abigail Adams lived a different sort of life. She ran a farm and raised her children mostly by herself. She had many ideas about what and how the United States should be. Early years. Abigail was born on November 11, 1744, in Massachusetts. At the time, Massachusetts was one of the 13 American colonies which were ruled by Great Britain. Abigail did not go to school. Most girls were not allowed to at the time. Instead, Abigail's mother, Elizabeth, taught her to read and write at home. Abigail was a smart girl who loved to read. She learned about the world by reading her father's many books. Abigail married John Adams on October 25, 1764. They lived on a small farm that had been in John's family for many years. John worked as a lawyer and Abigail managed the farm and the money. In 1768, they moved to Boston so John's law business could do better. John was often away from home because of his work. War with Great Britain. Soon after Abigail and John were married, Great Britain began to treat the colonies unfairly. People had to pay many high taxes. Many people in the colonies, including Abigail and John, wanted to break away from Great Britain. They wanted the colonies to become their home, their own country. In 1774, John was elected to represent 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 Massachusetts at the First Continental Congress. The Congress talked about how the colonies could become a independent country. Abigail stayed home while Joan was away. She ran the farm and taught the children. A woman running a business was not common in those days. She hired people and bought land in John's name. Women could not buy land on their own. While John was away, he and Abigail wrote many letters to each other. He often asked for her advice on politics as well as other subjects. John respected her ideas. John was elected to represent Massachusetts at the Second Continental Congress. In her Congress, how people in the colonies thought and felt. The leaders listened to what she had to say. In 1775, Congress declared the colonies independence from Great Britain. A war began. During it, Abigail made meals for soldiers and cared for ones who had been hurt. The war did not end until 1781. After the war, the colonies won the war and finally became an independent country. George Washington was elected the first president of the United States in 1789, and John became the first vice president. John and Abigail moved to Philadelphia, which was the capital at the time. Abigail did not like the capital soon and moved back to the farm. Abigail and John continued to send letters. John became president in 1997. As First Lady, Abigail gave her husband advice and on many things. She spoke out against slavery. She also argued argued for equal rights for women. Some people in the government did not like it when Abigail spoke out. They sometimes called her Mrs. President. Abigail never stopped talking about what she believed was right. Do you know? John and Abigail were the first president and first lady to live in the White House. It was called the President's House at the time. Later years, Abigail was happy when John's 4 years as president were over. She wanted to go back to their farm and live a quiet life. Abigail was sick during many of her later years. She died at home on October 28, 1818. Her ideas lived on. In time, they made the United States a better place for many people. Abigail Adams showed the world that the First Lady can speak up and work for important causes. Her amazing life and work are still remembered today.